Next up on our lightning round sessions, a big talk from Small Libraries 2026. Meghan is going to be talking about building a space in academic libraries for caregivers, and she's from the University of the District of Columbia. Full-time enrollment 2,900. Is that still correct?
Yes.
Where you're at? All right. All right, I'll hand it over to you, Meghan, to introduce yourself fully and tell us about how you've been doing this at your library.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me today, and thank you for the Nebraska Library Commission for hosting this great event. I'm here today to talk to you about our family-friendly study space that we built in our academic library. I know people don't think of kids when they think of academic libraries, and I'm hoping by the end of this lightning talk, I might get you to think a little bit differently. So at our library, we had a need for this space. The UDC student population, we are an HBCU commuter campus. The vast majority of our students are non-traditional. Our full-time enrollment is about 3,100, and most of our students, I would say most of our students, are balancing academics with some form of childcare, whether it is their own child, a child they care for in a work-related environment, or a sibling. And so we have discovered, through our time at the university, that there were inadequate options on campus for childcare. There was no daycare that students could just drop off kids at. And while there was for a time a daycare campus, that was a full-time enrollment daycare and not just sort of a drop-in care situation. And that daycare has since moved. And so many of our students end up bringing their children to the library and to classes. And then when students had online classes, there were constant kid interruptions, or our students just weren't able to find a quiet space to get work done. And childcare is just a common reality for our student population. And so we built this space because it aligned with the library's values, but also our institutional values of inclusivity, community care, and promoting student success in as many ways as we could. And we wanted to reduce the barriers to academic participation for our students. And we also wanted to show the importance of signaling to our students that they belong, even with, and maybe especially because they have bigger families. And so how did we build this space? Well, we took advantage of a remodel that was taking forever. Thank you, COVID. The idea had been floating around in our heads for a while, and it also helped that I myself was a new parent. As we were undergoing planning for the remodel, I was pregnant. And then after I came back from maternity leave, we rolled right into COVID. And so I had the constant need of childcare on my mind and seeing students in our online classes having to deal with childcare. So we knew the need was there. And so as the remodel was happening, we had some early considerations in mind. We needed to identify a location. We wanted it to be visible to our students, but we also wanted to know that kids make noise. And so we needed to be aware of how the noise might carry. We also wanted it to be as accessible as possible, since we did have some students with accessibility needs. And we also wanted to consider the safety of both the children and our students. And we also wanted to understand who would use this space, the ages of the kids that might be in that space, plus any type of student needs. What might they need to get their work done while having a kiddo in tow? And so we picked this space during a walkthrough of the remodel, and this was formerly a shared office. In fact, it used to be my office that I shared with a colleague, and we decided to use this space because it was large. That meant the kids would have the ability to run around and spread their legs and not really feel the need to sit down and be quiet. It also came with huge windows that allowed for light, and it gives kids something to look at, just looking outside, seeing the squirrels, seeing people walk by. We're on a bus route, seeing the buses and cars drive by. That made the space more welcoming and attractive. During the remodel, this space would also become fully enclosed. Previously, the walls did not go to the ceiling, and during the remodel, they decided to glass it in and take the walls to the ceiling, meaning that this space would be somewhat removed from the main open study areas of our library. And a bonus that we had in mind when we saw this was that it was right by the bathrooms. Anyone who has ever potty trained a child or has a kid in their life knows when they say, "I gotta go potty," they gotta go potty. And so how did we then furnish the space? Well, we took advantage of the remodel budget and we put in a request for our materials. I basically asked for the moon and got almost everything. And this was because the library's remodel budget was separate from its operating budget. We also made use of furniture that had already been ordered. The people who designed this space, the architects and designers, had said this would be a student lounge, and we, the librarians, just said, yeah, that's not happening. We're making it a family-friendly study space, but we did repurpose some of the couches and the tables and chairs that they had designed for this space. We also decided to add a kid-sized table and chairs that you see on the screen, a couple of beanbag chairs, and a bookcase with storage bins. And yes, we did anchor this to the wall because we didn't want it to be a safety hazard. We also have adult study furniture, adjacent but not directly next to the kids area. It's 3 desks in a row with 2 computers, 1 PC and 1 Mac, plus 1 open desk with a power strip for anyone who wanted to bring their own device. As for the kids stuff, how did we fill it with all of the toys and things? Library parents, including myself, were more than ready and willing to bring in materials, mostly books and non-noise making toys. We didn't want to have to deal with beeps and dings and things of that nature. We also have free crayons. We've been collecting, anytime we go to restaurants with our kids and they have those crayon packs, the kids use the crayons for 2 minutes and then they set them aside to eat. Well, I swipe those crayons and take them home since the restaurants don't reuse them. So that's one way we've been building our crayon collection. Here in DC, our DC Public Library is also a partner with the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. And so anytime my kiddo outgrew books from that collection, and same thing with a couple of the library parents, we would bring those in. And this really helped build our Spanish language collection, which is good because while we are an HBCU, we are an emerging HSI, or Hispanic Serving Institution. And so we really wanted to accommodate Spanish language books as well. In designing policies for our space, we wanted to be as open and accessible as humanly possible. So we actually have minimal rules. In fact, we develop the policies on the fly as necessary. So anyone can use the space. Our regular students without kids love it, but anyone with kids get dibs. The main policy that we came away with up front was that an adult must be present with the child at all times, because the library cannot provide childcare. We know that is a problem with people dropping off kids, public libraries, and wandering away and basically considering it free babysitting. And we just wanted to make it abundantly clear from the start that we would not be doing that. And so far, it has not been a problem. The early response to our space was fantastic. It was used immediately. I think within 48 hours of our new space being open, we already had someone in there with their kids, and the feedback was nothing but positive. Anytime folks with kids come into the library, we recommend this space, and new students were shocked that we had this available, and most of them have become repeat customers to the point where now we recognize most of our students and the kids, and it's been fun to see the kids grow up in the 18 months since we've been open. An unexpected use that we encountered was faculty using this space for their kids. So sometimes we will have a faculty member have a student babysit their child while they're teaching, and that'll take place in this space. And then even our students without kids like the space. I often find sheets colored in by some of these students. It's been fantastic. And the feedback we've received comes either verbally, or at one point we did have an easel with a question in there for people to write on, and it's all been positive. They love the inclusivity and the sense of belonging, and also the sense of safety for both them and their kids. In fact, one person said, it's great that I don't really have to worry about my kid running around interrupting my classmates because there's this dedicated space for them. So some tips if you want to get started is to start small. Perfection is not required to be supportive. We're still learning how this space works and how to make it best used for our students. But the fact that it even exists has made many of our students excited. Be clear and flexible. Your policies should empower and not penalize. For example, we don't care if books or toys walk away. This is less stress for everyone because we don't have to catalog anything. We don't have to pay attention. We don't have to inventory. And we have plenty of stuff waiting in the wings to refill this space. I have like 4 or 5 boxes of books and toys under my desk. But almost nothing has walked away. A few items have been damaged from so much use that, we've had to cycle in new things, but for the most part, the students who use this space and their kids are very respectful of it. You also should expect that the space to evolve as you learn how it is used. So, need more things? Ask your staff. Plenty of your staff are probably parents or have parents in their life. If you're not getting enough stuff, I recommend going to local parent listservs. Parents want to get things out of their houses, particularly if you offer to pick those items up. It's easier on them, and it's a great way for you to get free materials. I would also recommend talking to caregivers directly, because what they need may be simpler than what you've assumed. And so we've learned as we go on, anytime we see a caregiver using that space, we ask, hey, how's it working? How could we make it better? Some lessons we have learned is that you will be asked to host a study time almost immediately. Within the first week of this space being open, I was being asked if we would have story time. One day we might partner with the DC Public Library, but it hasn't been quite there yet. Visibility does matter. Advertise the space so students know it existed. It did take me much longer to get this listed on our library website than I wish to admit, but anytime we saw a kid in the library, it was a lot of word of mouth. Hey, go there, and it's been spreading that way. The little touches do matter. We make sure to have access to outlets for both parents and kids. Many kids these days come with their own devices. We put step stools in the bathrooms to make it easier for kids to wash their hands. And the Spanish language material has been very welcome. You will need to clean it up, daily, putting things away and neatening. Deeper cleaning. Magic erasers are your friends, so are Clorox wipes. It hasn't been too bad for us, but just know cleaning will be part of the process, and either you need to work with your cleaning staff to do that or just be prepared to do it on your own. I have learned that maybe no kid puzzles is the way to go. It proved difficult to keep pieces in the right boxes, so we did do away with kid puzzles. And we did not consider, when we were designing this space, what parents might be bringing with them, which was a complete overlook on my part, being a new parent, things like strollers and that sort of thing. It has not been an issue, but it's something we should have assumed in the design. And as an added bonus, this has become a selling point for the university. It's great for admissions and retention and donations. In fact, when tours are happening for things like donors and our board of directors, this space gets shown off every single time. Some next steps is we want to do more collaborative events. We have several degree programs at our university that work with kids. Just the last week, we tried to do one with our speech language pathology library about the best ways to read to kids. It wasn't very well attended, but we're going to try to keep promoting these things since we do have so many programs on campus. We also want to fix the door. It's heavy and it slams, and for some reason they put a lock on it. So we're working on getting that removed because, again, ease of access and safety is front of mind. We also want to add a printer to this space so our students do not have to leave to pick up anything that they print from the computers within that space. We're also considering adding a pack and play and changing tables to the restrooms. We also would love to add art on the walls. Right now they're just big and white and open, and hopefully we can get art from the kids themselves. Same thing with window clings. They're very easy to remove and update, and we think it would be a lot of fun for both the students and the caregivers who use that area. It's been a lot of great fun to put this space together, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have either today or feel free to email me. This is my baby, and I'm very proud of showing it off and talking about how it all came together.
All right, thank you, Megan. Yeah, no, this was very awesome. Yeah, I was wondering what was going to be with the kids in the university library, but I think you've done an awesome job here. We do have a comment. Nice presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have some questions? So you mentioned you'd have a lot of students that had children and it was just a thing happening, but have there been any backlash at all? Any comments from anyone about why are these kids in this university library?
Not one. Not a single negative comment about this space. Not even, like, every now and then you get a little kid in there who's quite vocal or learning how vocal they can be. I'm thinking of 2-year-olds here. And the closest we've come to a negative comment is someone coming up and a kid being like, or a student being like, wow, that kid has lungs. But it was said with a laugh. And so I think it's just because so many of our students have caregiving responsibilities, it's just the reality on our campus. Students are used to it. And so they love that there is now space for these kids to go to, and it removes them from the rest of the library. So they're even less disruptive. And we've had students who don't have children come up and say, this is fantastic. I'm glad it's here.
I'm glad you're doing this for the ones that need it. Yeah. Great. And we do have one tip that I'm going to share about puzzles. If you do, I know you said you took them out, but that what you can do is turn on the back of the pieces, write a letter or number on the back of the piece, and then on the back of the puzzle tray or the box, and then you know which pieces go with which puzzle. Just got to turn them over and match them up.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
If you do want to have those in your library. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Megan.